Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. We spend a lot of time on our television channels discussing things which are not always the most terribly important things to do. Today, we're going to take a look at something that perhaps should be worrying all of us a lot more than it actually does, and which is, of course, the rise of ISIS, what ISIS is doing in West Asia, and its possible threat and its possible spread to India. And we have been able to, on this episode of The Big Fight, assemble just about all the top thinkers we've been able to find on the question of ISIS right here in India. And we are going to be hearing from them what they think about the organization and what they think we need to do about it. So let me, without any further ado, start to welcome our guests. We have Dr. Maqsood Al-Hassan Qasmi, who's the chairman of the Imam Council of India. It's great to have you with us. Dr. Wael Awad, who's a top West Asia expert with the Risana TV channel. Thanks a lot for being with us here. Dr. Humayun Akhtar Nazmi, who's at the Center for West Asian Studies at the Jamia Millia Islamia University. Thanks a lot for being with us. Our old friend Ajay Shukla is one of the top defense and strategic analysts whom we have. It gives me great pleasure to welcome, joining us from Srinagar in Kashmir, Professor Siddiq Wahid, who's at the Islamic University of Science and Technology. It's wonderful to have you with us. Joining us from Mumbai is Mohammad Sarur Tarabi, who's the spokesperson of the All India Shia Personal Law Board. We are also being joined by Dr. Gajendra Singh, who's the former ambassador to Jordan and to Turkey. And now we are being joined on the program by Iftikhar Khan, who was the uncle of Areeb Majid. Iftikhar Khan ji, हम बात कर रहे हैं कि आईसिस को अगर आप लें तो यहाँ हिंदुस्तान से बहुत कम ही लोग गए हैं. अरीब ने आपको क्या बताया, वो क्यों गया, किसने उससे बात की थी, हुआ क्या था?
कि आरिफ जब से हिंदुस्तान में आया है या जब से लाया गया उसको, तभी तक उसका किसी से हम लोग का कोई संपर्क नहीं हुआ, न हमारी उससे बातचीत हुई है. और इसकी पूरी जानकारी तो हमारे NIA को, पुलिस को है ही है, जिन्होंने इन्वेस्टिगेशन किया है, और ये मैटर कोर्ट में है. इसके बारे में मैं ज़्यादा बात भी नहीं कर सकता हूँ.
आपने कुछ तो सोचा होगा कि अगर आईसिस के लोग आ रहे हैं, लोगों से बात कर रहे हैं, लोगों को वहां ले जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, तो वो कैसे करते होंगे, क्या कहते होंगे, क्या सुनाते होंगे लोगों को?
पहली बार ऐसा है कि पूरी जो भी हमारी कंट्री के तफ्तीश ब्यूरो है, चाहे वो NIA है, राव है, या जो भी है, ATS है, लोकल पुलिस है, CBI है, CID है, सभी ने ये सोचा कि कोई ना कोई इनके पीछे कोई ग्रुप होगा, कोई मकसद होगा, या कोई इनको गाइड्स करता होगा. लेकिन ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है और ऐसा कुछ भी साबित नहीं हुआ. ये बच्चे गए, किस इंटेंशन से गए, इनका अगर बैकग्राउंड आप देखोगे तो बच्चों के अंदर कभी भी इस टाइप का कोई भी जज्बा नहीं था जो मतलब टेररिस्ट की तरफ जो राह लेके जाती हो.
जब आरिफ वहाँ गया था, उन्होंने आपसे बात करी थी, तो सुनते हैं वो गया था, पर वहाँ उसको वहाँ से नाखुश था, हुआ क्या था?
ये फैक्ट है कि वहाँ पे गया और ये प्रूव है, इसमें कोई ये नहीं है. लेकिन इनके पीछे जो इंटेंशन है आतंक का, दहशत का, ISIS ज्वाइन करने का, तो ये तो किसी को मालूम नहीं है. क्योंकि अभी वो बच्चे जाने के बाद में हमारे पास कोई ऐसा मतलब आरिफ आया, आरिफ से हमारी कभी मुलाकात नहीं हुई. आरिफ ने जो भी किया, जैसा भी था, वो सब पुलिस को बताया और वो पुलिस को मालूम है. अब बाकी इनके पीछे कौन लोग काम किए, कैसे इनका जहन डाइवर्ट हुआ, ऐसा कुछ भी हमारे यहाँ से कोई नहीं है. जबकि ये बार बार पुलिस को और डिपार्टमेंट को इस बात की तलाश थी कि कोई ना कोई इनके पीछे कोई ग्रुप या कोई लोग काम कर रहे होंगे, तो ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं हुआ.
ठीक है इसका जी, आखिर में आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
बच्चे मासूम थे, बच्चे का बैकग्राउंड पूरा मासूम है, उनके फैमिली के बैकग्राउंड मासूम है, और बच्चों के माँ बाप ने जिस तरीके से डिपार्टमेंट को कोऑपरेट किए कि एक छोटा सा मैसेज, एक छोटा सा फ़ोन फैमिली को न बताते हुए डिपार्टमेंट को एक कोऑर्डिनेट किया, एक अपना देश, अपना मुल्क समझने के नाते. तो अगर ये बच्चे आते हैं या आना चाहते हैं, जैसे आरिफ मजीद आया, तो हमारी हुकूमत, हमारी पुलिस, हमारा मुल्क उसको सहयोग करे, उसको कोऑपरेट करे, ताकि दूसरे लोग जो गए हैं वो जल्द से जल्द अपने वतन लौटें. और इस कोऑपरेशन को देख करके हमारे जो बच्चे हैं वो आगे कोई स्टेप नहीं ले कि भाई ऐसी कोई गलती नहीं करे. और मैं अपने तमाम भाइयों से भी गुजारिश करूंगा, जो भी मेरा चैनल देख रहे हैं या जो मुझको सुन रहे हैं, कि ISIS इस्लाम जो है ना, आतंक का पैगाम नहीं देता, आतंक का सबक नहीं देता, वो भाईचारे का सबक देता है, इंसानियत का सबक देता है. तो कोई भी जो है इसमें गुमराह होने की जरूरत नहीं.
इफ्तिखार जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप हमारे साथ थे. लेट मी डाइव स्ट्रेट इनटू इट. ISIS itself and what it perhaps represents for us in India, is it something that we should be concerned about? Why don't I start with you, Phil?
ISIS is an organization. It's totally un-Islamic organization, though people who are managing it are Muslim, but their actions are un-Islamic. The way in which they behead people, the way in which they treat with women, they sell out women and humiliate other people of other religions, it doesn't have any relevance with Islam. First, but why the youngest Muslim youth are getting attraction toward them? We should also bear in the mind how this organization overnight becomes so popular. Look, in the war-ridden Iraq and Syria, where people are starving, people are struggling for one-day meal, how these people are very rich, they are paying hefty amount to their soldiers, so-called soldiers, and they are possessing high-technique camera, multiple high-technique camera.
It's one of the richest terrorist groups, militant groups in the world.
The point is, who is funding them? One more point. When Abu Bakr Baghdadi get hurt by US strike, this man was taken to Israel territory, and he was stated there. Why?
But okay, let me turn to you, Mr. Tarabi. We heard what was just said here by Dr. Kasmi. You, of course, represent the Shia Personal Law Board. So, would your view be very similar to him, that whatever it is that they are espousing, it is not Islamic? And if that is the case, what can be done to mute or to in some way deal with whatever appeal they may have for a section of the youth? And is there any appeal for the section of the youth here in India at least?
I agree with what Mr. Kasmi is saying, because Islam is a religion of peace, brotherhood, unity, integrity and tolerance. And according to the hadith of the Prophet says, if you kill somebody who is not done anything wrong, it means you have killed the complete humanity. So IS has nothing to do with the Islam and nothing to do with the humanity. And they have took as a shield, they are using Islam, and they doesn't have nothing to do with Islam. We
are hearing both from the top Sunni and the top Shia scholars here in India, and that's by and large been the stance taken by the entire Muslim clergy, certainly here in India, that whatever ISIS is doing, it's non-Islamic. But can I just ask you, Dr. Nazmi, is there some sort of an appeal that you're feeling? It's actually quite frightening, the number of people from countries like the UK, from France, from Germany, all over the world. People are going there, are being lured by ISIS. They're seeing these very strictly produced videos on YouTube and other such formats, where YouTube takes off some of them, but they do see these videos, they read the magazines, and they get attracted by them. Are you seeing any attraction for ISIS among young people here in India?
2 or 3 things which would like to tell. The first thing, whether the attraction within the ISS by the European people or by Indian youths. This is almost confirmed that almost all the peoples are coming from entire world, either from Europe, US, UK or from India. They are the Sunnis. When we talk about the ISS, we must clear that
ISIS is very clearly a Sunni organization. So, you know,
not only Sunni organization.
So-called Sunni. I mean, he is right. He said so-called Sunni.
No, I am not talking about only Sunni organization. It's a Salafi organization. Within the Sunni, there is a lot of sects.
Yeah.
It's a Salafi organization. So, Salafi impact, whatever places is there, they are coming. And the second thing which I will take, why the Indian youths are coming.
Are the Indian youth coming? First of all, let's establish that.
Yeah, Indian youths are going. I have knowledge. I have give you 2 or 3 quotes. Then Indian youth through various means. For example, recently a report has come in the Arabia news, in the Khalij Times, that a Keralite journalist working in the Qatar moved to Syria and move to Turkey and then join the Syria.
But can I just say that, hang on, I just want to understand the extent of the problem, because look, let's say one person goes from India, let's say 10 people go, let's say even 50 or 100 people go. Let's remember there are, how many million Muslims are there in India? 180 million Muslims.
Yes.
So if 5 people or 10 people or even 30 people go,
Now
it by and large means that the vast majority of Indian Muslims are not seeing any attraction. You're seeing what the leadership of the community is saying very clearly.
Not a single Maulana, not a single Mufti, not a single Islamic scholar supports them. Not a single person is linked with them. In comparison with Taliban, Mullah Umar was himself a scholar, Islamic scholar, so-called Islamic scholar, but not this. Who is getting attracted from their activities? Not any Islamic scholar, not a Mufti, not a Kilari give fatwa in their support. Only people like Areeb Majid, their accomplice. They are modern educated version. They are engineer, sometimes they may be doctors. And from UK, the girls also go there and they get married there.
Somewhat baffling considering what ISIS's views on, on women and girls are.
15 days with one, 15 days with another. So it is not Islam. Having girlfriends in Islam, not Islam doesn't permit it. Even Taliban keep themselves away from such things. No.
Of course, ISIS's theories on sex slavery is a different concept altogether, which
Chandraji, let me make one point. My point is that this organization is completely un-Islamic people, and there is international conspiracy against Islamic country to destabilize Islamic Muslim world, to destabilize the region, which is very neighbor with Israel.
Okay, and I'll come to the conspiracy in just a short while. I'm just trying to first establish, from get everyone else's takes in. Professor Wahid, let me just come to you in Srinagar, because we have in the rest of the country, we haven't really, one or two stray cases, but it's not that you really hear too much about it. In Srinagar, you have seen ISIS flags being displayed. Is that a sign of what many people are seeing as the increasing radicalization of young people there in Kashmir? Or is it just a gesture of protest? It's one of the easiest ways to get a lot of publicity, to get people really riled up, put on up an ISIS flag, and before you know it, all TV channels are covering it, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's very much the latter. Is that it's a way to get attention. Everybody gets excited when you put up a flag which looks like an ISIS flag or is an ISIS flag. And I think that, but I think one thing, one of the questions that you've asked earlier, and that was that what is it that is causing youth to join? If you analyze where ISIS is successful, so to speak, and sort of thriving, is in areas where there is civil war, where there is political injustice, where there has been a lot of turmoil. And I think that is where people find people who are upset, who are somehow sort of disenchanted, and go to these areas. So I think that is one context that we have to consider.
Right, but specifically in the context of Kashmir and Srinagar in particular, there have been people who have been somewhat concerned as to growing radicalization there among a section of the youth, which is something, of course, which is diametrically opposite. Everything that ISIS represents is diametrically opposite to what the traditional culture and ethos of Kashmiriyat has been. But are there some people who feel that maybe this is the way to go, if not ISIS specifically, but yes, a slightly more radical form of Islam? Is that starting to catch on there in Kashmir?
No, I think that there is radicalization in the sense that there's political radicalization. People are upset because the law doesn't seem to support them. There's a culture of impunity that takes place and so forth. So there is the radicalization, and I think that we've seen a lot about in the media recently as well. As far as Islamist radicalization goes, I think it is more a case of piety and people sort of, thinking about the other world, so to speak, or about these things. And I don't think that there is the degree of radicalization that some people make it out to be. Has it taken root? I would say yes. And then somebody asks me and says, well, how deep is it? Well, I said, that's the thing about roots. You know, you don't know how deep they are until they sprout and until they come out.
All right, let me get some
So,
more takes on this. Why don't I come to you, Dr. Abad? What did make ISIS so successful so suddenly?
I don't think it is suddenly. Let us little bit ground. We go back to the Afghan jihadist university, which started in the 80s, where Hillary Clinton said herself that we were the one, and the ISI and the Saudis have created the Taliban and Al Qaeda to counter the Soviet Union, and the project was very successful. And this is the same incarnation of that success story in Afghanistan. They've carried it along with them into the Arab world. And if you remember, when they toppled the Taliban, they scattered the Arab Mujahideen left, or so-called the Mujahideen Arab, went to Yemen, went to Morocco, went to Iraq. So that was the dissemination of this attitude. So to speak that it has nothing to do with Islam, I'm sorry to say here, because there are radical countries, state-sponsored terrorism, who are behind them, who's supporting them, and who has fed them and made them believe. Because if you go to Saudi Arabia, and there are 85% of the population still believe that they are practicing Islam doctrine there, and if you go to Turkey, and the survey said that 53% in Turkey, they do not believe that they are not terrorist organization, then I'm sorry, there is something wrong with ourselves. We have to correct ourselves. This is the same coin of the two faces of the same coin. Because these people, they were different ideology between Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and Abu Musab al-Zarqawi on the implication. It was only the Al-Qaeda which was taking the foreigners as a target. These people took the minorities as a target.
In a sense, it's almost bemusing that now when you think back at Al-Qaeda, it almost seems like a moderate organization, considering what ISIS has been up to. And you never thought the day would come. If you think of what ISIS represents now, you compare that to the Taliban or Al-Qaeda.
I would tend to disagree, in the sense that you heard much less, or so much less, of what the Al-Qaeda did or what the Al-Qaeda intended to do. Plus, it was a very tiny organization. What is being spoken of as Al-Qaeda was really a couple of hundred people at the core. The rest of it, as far as atrocities are concerned, beheadings are concerned, torture is concerned,
they never made it into as much of a spectacle as ISIS is doing. Televising it, putting it out there, putting out reams to justify, the enslavement and to sexual slavery.
Yes, because they believed in the spectacle of the deed. They believed in doing a 9/11. Whereas what these people do is exploit the media to take very, very brutal but tiny acts that you could say, what is there
torture
in slaughtering
archaeologists,
or slaughter prisoners,
in
or
Palmyra,
rape children, and make it into an ideological or a religious rite.
But that's what I mean. Al-Qaeda never justified the raping of 10-year-old girls and saying that yes, no, that's something which is correct.
What I'm trying to say is,
God approves it if I'm doing that. They never.
That's not an issue. That's not an issue. The issue is what threat do they constitute? And I would like to suggest that the Al-Qaeda also. The other thing you must remember, these are all spin-offs of Al-Qaeda.
Yeah,
this is something that is just escalating.
What the difference between Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Zarqawi, and this so-called ISIS is that Taliban is the resistant forces. Al-Qaeda also kill, though they are terrorists, I don't agree with them, but they are resistant. They claim resistant for to act against atrocities being made against Muslims. So, but these people, they are entirely different from them. They make slogan of Khilafat, which is not found anywhere in any terror organization. That is why some youth who have raw knowledge of Islam, they get attracted to their organization.
Okay, fine. Ajay, the threat to India. Let's just come back to that. I want to get Gajendra Singh in on that.
Before we go there, I think it's very important to actually accurately judge what is ISIS or the Islamic State, because we're all talking largely in terms of what it is not. It is not a Muslim organization. It is not what is it? Now I'll tell you.
They are a Muslim organization. He's saying that they're not representing Islam, but they claim to be a Muslim organization.
Some Muslims are managing them.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one way I should start by saying that I disagree with the fundamental point behind this program, which is that how much of a threat is ISIS? The whole problem with Al-Qaeda was that it was not too much of a threat, but the launch of this global war on terror after 26/11 and the pursuit of Al-Qaeda into Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and Libya and so on have created conditions of such turmoil that an organization like the Islamic State, which does not have much of backing, as we've seen on this program, has been able to emerge. Now, the Islamic State, if you actually look at it and evaluate what it is plugged into local politics, the tribal local politics. It is plugged into regional politics, the whole Iran versus Saudi Arabia rift, Shia-Sunni politics. It is plugged into this whole geopolitical dimension of this, clash of civilizations and so on.
Right.
And what they have done, this group, this inconsequential group, has actually managed to do is to use video.
Group, but it has
listen to me.
It actually controls a fair chunk of territory. It certainly controls a fair chunk of money.
Vikram, I'll tell you, it does not control a lot of territory if you look at it in the larger geopolitical.
Controls more territory than.
One sec. What they have managed to do is they have managed to use mass media, as Ajay Sani was saying absolutely correctly. They have managed to use these completely horrific videos. What does it take
more attention than they deserve?
To get far more attention than they deserve.
Dr. Gajendra Singh, do you agree with him that you shouldn't overstate the threat from ISIS? Ajay seems to be saying it's relatively small, it's not that much of an area, and some would add to that it's also very far away, and to get to India, there's a lot of distance they have to cover across. Lots of people are very opposed to them.
Overstating the case and overreacting to ISIS will create conditions where ISIS flourishes rather than gets blocked.
Don't overreact. Dr. Gajendra Singh.
ISIS is not a very big thing. If already it will be under stress because there is a change of regime in Turkey, and they were getting lot of help and training, etc., from Turkey. So already, and if the West wants to destroy this organization, they can do it very easily. It is not that difficult. It is a result of conflict between East and West and between Shia and Sunni countries in this region for confluence. And when the Sunni countries and NATO powers felt that Shias are getting the upper hand, they created this organization. And many of these people were trained by Americans, in Jordan, in Turkey, by, Americans, by Turks, and money provided by Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
It is not Shia-Sunni conflict at all. Because ISIS people do not spare anybody.